Thanksgiving is a time for family, a time to be grateful for them and let go of any animosity. That's what my father's always told me growing up. Because of him, I never missed a Thanksgiving with my family, and I've always made sure to put on a positive attitude. Thanksgiving's for family no matter what's been happening with us during the year. In fact, that's the only time that I see my so-called family. I'm a part of a blended family, and my stepsisters make sure to never let me forget that. They joined our family when I was turning 18. I moved to college after only a month of staying with them, and it was the best choice that I could have made, to be honest, because I did not have to spend any time that was not holiday time with them. The little time that I spent with them led me to greatly disliking them due to how snobby and self-important they are. They are two very beautiful girls with the most terrible manners that I've ever seen. They're spoiled, entitled, and will take any chances to talk down on me. I avoid seeing them during the year, and sometimes I can even pretend to have something going on at Christmas. But Thanksgiving is a whole new ballgame. During that time of the year, Dad wants all the family together. Not attending is not an option, and nobody wants to disappoint him. He's the most respected family member. Not even my stepsisters can dare to say anything against him. My father commands respect in a quiet way. He's not loud or aggressive. He's a man of few words and many actions. Everybody in the community respects and adores him. To disappoint him would have, you feeling terrible for months. So this is how I ended up back home the day before the Thanksgiving. I was much later than I wanted to be. But hey, flights have been getting delayed due to it being such a big holiday, you know. But I'm just glad that I made it on time. My dad picked me up at the airport, and as usual, he grilled me on my career. He was different to my mom in the regard my mom thought that my career was getting in the way of my romantic life. She only wanted me to marry into a good family and have a bunch of kids. My dad, no, he was different. He said that I had my whole life to do that, and I had to make sure that I cemented myself amongst the greatest in my field. He always wanted what was better for me and was quite glad I was not like my younger sisters. He often tried to get them to do productive stuff, but they never listened. They're both event hosts for different venues, and they're always on the road, and they always look glamorous. They're also the most wanted in town. They're so beautiful and tend to bring a new boyfriend each and every Thanksgiving. Then there's me, who's never brought anyone. Alyssa made a joke about it when I got out of the car and asked if I'd come alone once again. I wasn't in the mood for her and did not want to show her how much what she said hurt me, so I just laughed and said to her, "You know me, forever alone." And that was when she ran away this year. Well, that was the joke that she made sure to carry on for the rest of the night. Whenever she could, she would make these backhanded comments about me being, quote, the third wheel. After all, it was my dad and stepmom, Alyssa and her boyfriend, as well as Stella and her boyfriend. It surprised me when I found out that Alyssa was still with the guy that she was with last year. I can hardly keep track of her dating life. When I asked her about that, she said that of course things were getting serious and she was expecting a ring anytime soon. She then added that maybe if I actually dressed in a color other than black and left the house once in a while, I would be the one who's getting engaged in, 5 years? Stella just snickered when she heard that, and she asked me how I could survive being alone this long. Surely I was not going mad being alone all the time. Her sister said that maybe I was used to it and losing my mind is normal. Then they cackled as they usually do, and I was so mad that I left them and went to the kitchen to help my stepmom with making the food. She asked if they were being too much, again, and if she should reprimand them, but I simply told her, don't worry about that, there is no need. My stepmom is actually a very, very nice person. It's a wonder that those two women are literally from her. She was once married to a very wealthy man who ended up passing on. My stepsisters grew in luxury, and they were oh so spoiled. So when he actually passed on, he left the money that they could only use when they were 30. Yeah, both of them are counting down the day until they finally hit the birth age of 30. Anyways, I'm sure that I will not hear the end of it. Stepmom is very quiet of a person who's often in her own world. You know, she's just always reading and just doing chores around the house and often has no clue about what's going on around her. I like her because she's not materialistic like her daughters, and she actually treats me better than my own mom. Sometimes I wish that Alyssa and I could switch moms. My mom would have somebody like her. My mom would love it. I ended up helping my stepmom in the kitchen while we talked and caught up on all the stuff that's been happening in our lives. She told me that my father was thinking of stepping down from the multiple councils that he has, and he has somebody in mind to take over. We both discussed who the perfect candidate might be for several hours until dinner was ready. Dinner was hell. Those two bullied me subtly every chance that they got. By the time I went to sleep, I was feeling dejected, and I hated them both so much. What was wrong if I did not bring someone? It does not make me a loser. It's not like it was my fault that I could not bring someone. Circumstances can contribute to it, and right now they're just being bullies. I could tell that it was going to be a long weekend, and I was going to suffer. The next day was worse. I found out that Stella's been matching sets for all the couples. If she had just gotten one for me, I would not have felt insulted, but she brought two and said it was her bad because she had hoped that I would find someone by now. Stepmom saw my face and asked me if I wanted to help her with dinner. So we repeated the ritual, and then we had dinner while everybody was wearing their matching sets. That was until there was a knock on the door. Alyssa laughed and asked if it was my boyfriend finally arriving. I knew who she meant. My high school ex who once showed up at a Christmas even though we had broken up. The terrible two had mocked me and told me to take him back since he's the only person who seems to want me. I just rolled my eyes and told them to grow up. That was when my stepmother screamed. She screamed like she's seen something unusual, and it was a scream of terror. Just then, she came rushing into the room, wide-eyed as she told us who had come. Everyone's jaw dropped, and they told her that she was lying. She said she was not lying. He was right there at the door. So my dad told her to hurry up. He wants to see him. He was a big fan. Just then, he walked in from behind my stepmom with flowers. He said that they were for her and that she nearly fainted on the spot. My stepsisters were both flustered and also oh so shocked. It was one of our local celebrities and heartthrobs. You know how every town has one. He was a quite big deal. I stood up from where I was sitting, a little shocked that he was there, and then I planted one on him. That's because he's my boyfriend. The most wanted bachelor in town, that's right, and I was so glad that he made it since there was a chance that he would not. And before you ask, my stepsister's face was so priceless when she saw, because she had not expected him at all. For once, she was quiet. Now that I have silenced all the haters, let's eat. Update number 1. Damn, I did not expect this post to blow up so fast. I'm going to tell you all that about what I know. Many of you want to know the details of my relationship, while the rest of you want to know what happened with my sisters after they found out that I was dating someone that, well, she had crushed on for oh so long. So I'm going to make another post giving her reaction. Let me just tell you how I ended up dating somebody is pretty much a celebrity in town and why I hid it. I'm not going to use his real name because I don't want anyone tracking him down. Only my family knows about the relationship at the moment, and I would like to keep it that way. My boyfriend Kenny and I met when I missed my flight 2 years ago. He is an author and has starred in a local television series. He's just getting big now in our town. He's such a big deal, though. We found out the next flight would be the next day, and we both had somewhere to be before then. I was not going to wait for the flight, so I said to myself that I would rather drive and get there later that night. He then asked if I wanted some company. When I looked at him, we both recognized each other. He said that he knew my father had seen a picture of me in his office one time. I asked how he even remembered me, and he said something like, how could he not forget those eyes? I told him that he was being corny, but if he could contribute to the gas, he could come along. And so I drove the two of us to where we had to go. It was the best car ride ever. He was surprisingly humble for somebody that most women practically worshipped, and I did not get his number after the ride and could not stop thinking of him as a missed connection. Guess who ended up finding my number and calling me? He asked me out on a date, and we've been together ever since. But we both value privacy and have kept it to ourselves. Recently, we decided to tell our families. Last month, I met his and Thanksgiving we had. He was supported to meet mine, but his schedule changed, and I was very disappointed by that, and hoped that I was going to get to stick it to my stepsisters who had looked at me in pity every holiday. But he made it. He actually found a way through his chaotic schedule and made it to see me. You can imagine how happy I am right now. I have to go, though. I'll sneak away in a bit to post another update. Update. I'm back from the weekend, and now I can finally tell you how it went. The look on Alyssa's face when she realized who I was dating is something I wish I would have taken a picture of and framed it. I have never seen something so satisfying. She had nothing to say. When I introduced him to my father and stepmom, they were overjoyed. They also joked about how I did like to keep my secrets. They instantly made him a plate and gave him a place to sit. I then asked Stella if she still had the set that matched mine, so that we could match the occasion. Stella's mouth opened and shut like a goldfish. She got up with such force that I'm surprised that she did not knock her boyfriend's hand off. She gave me the dirtiest of look, and then she left to bring me the set. The two of them were very quiet during dinner. They had nothing to say to me, and all their comments would do no good. When he had left, they cornered me in my room and grilled me on the relationship. They could not believe that somebody like him could like somebody like me. Surely I had something on him. Did I pay him to say that he was in a relationship with me? Or maybe I was dying and this was my last wish. Alyssa's eyes sparked a bit too much when she said that, so then I showed them my gallery, which had hundreds of photos of and videos of us happily together. They were livid. Even though they tried to hide it, this was because they've always been considered the standard of beauty in our town. I, on the other hand, was the smart girl next door. How could I land such a great person? First of all, I would need to have personality that both of them lack. Seriously, being mean girls gets a bit overrated at times. Was it so hard to believe that we both looked for something more than in a relationship than looks? Sure, he's somewhat famous, and any girl in this town would kill to have him. But they don't know him or connect to him like I do. They don't see him like I do, for the person that he is, how hardworking he is, and how burdened he is by so much. They don't know what it takes for him to be himself. They don't know the man behind the smile. Someone with a heart of gold who's beyond all this superficial crap. He doesn't care about looks, he cares about how somebody treats him. And I have to watch him to be betrayed by people he thought had his back. Most of them use him for his popularity and kindness, and he just told me that when he met me, he never felt like I had to put on a show. I was straight up with him about what I wanted, and I never tried to dress it up as something it's not. Not like in his past relationships. Sure, we've not been perfect, it's been hell due to the long distance, but one thing we always have is each other at the end of the day. We're beyond what people in our lives see us as. And it is something people like those two don't get and will spend their lives trying to figure out. Do you know that Alyssa has been nervous because her boyfriend wants to propose? She's not nervous because he is about to propose, it's because she fears that he got her rings with fewer carats than some of the other girls she's competing with. I've heard her speak to Stella, saying that she would rather lose the man if it meant that the ring was not worth that much. And now she was all red during dinner whenever even the slightest bit touched my hand. And that's nothing compared to what she did the rest of that weekend. Sorry, I'm just getting overwhelmed right now. My thoughts are swimming. And I'm getting nauseous as I think of what she did. I will be back to update you. Update. Hey, I'm sorry that I got like that and could not finish telling you what I wanted to say. A lot happened during that weekend that's still triggering me. I've calmed down now, and I'll tell you what happened, but first I want to address the comments. Firstly, I want to say thank you to the commenters who told me to ignore all the negative noise and just focus on my relationship no matter what my sister does. Honestly, that comment gave me strength right now, and that, after the betrayal, then there was somebody who was questioning whether I brought him to the family dinner as a prize even though I claimed to love him so much. I get your concern, to be honest. I mean, what can I tell you is that it was time. I'm not sure if you remember the fact that we've been seeing each other for, 2 years now and keeping things under wraps. That's because we wanted to work on our relationship without all the scrutiny from the community. I was the one who asked to keep the relationship private. He's more than proud of me. Okay, with that out of the way, I'll tell you the reasons why I'm never setting foot in the same room as my stepsister again. Remember how she was going to get engaged this weekend, right? You remember that? Well, it turns out that the man told my father and asked for his blessing. For context, Alyssa's husband works in law and is a very active member of the community. My father's retiring and is looking for somebody to replace him in his position. Her boyfriend asked for that position. That would mean that she would move back permanently and spend a lot of time with my dad. She would serve the role that her mom used to serve. I just knew that it was her plan to get some sort of power in the community. She's never once cared about their well-being. Then there's her fiancé, who gives me such a bad vibe. He strikes me as a man with quite a temper, if you ask me. I've seen the way that he speaks to her, and it would not be right to inherit that position from my father. I know people who would have worked hard for years and would be really, really good at it. I had to go to my dad about this. I mean, how could he just give it to them when they have not proved that they're worth it? We had an argument, and do you know what his reasoning was? He said that he would have asked me, but my lack of stable relationship would be a problem. He also did not want to derail my future plans. He reminded me that her fiancé was going to propose. It was clear that he was going to be a part of the family. That would mean that he would be able to easily seek advice from my dad, but I felt that he was not the right person for this. With her by his side, they would run the council to the absolute ground. My dad told me that there's no reason for me to be talking about this anymore. It was absolutely final. He even asked me if the relationship with Kenny would work. So I took the ring out of my purse and showed it to him. I told him that I planned to tell him that evening, and Kenny and I are getting married in less than 2 months. And I'm moving back into town. Not only to be closer to my fiancé, but to also work in my dad's field that I've always wanted to do what he does for years, helping the community and keeping it safe. He tried to dream big for me and wanted me to climb every ladder, and I did. I learned so many valuable lessons along the way, but I did it all to come back home and rebuild. But now I was to work under Alyssa? Dad said that I would not be working under her, she would just be a secretary. As if that made things much better. My father told me that I should work somewhere else, and I was destined for something else. It might have seemed like a compliment, but it felt like he was telling me I was not good enough to work for the community. You cannot imagine how badly that one hurt. I've not been able to stop thinking about that since I came back. So what? We got married, I moved back into town, work in corporate until my heart rots with it. I've done this for so many years now. I just want to do what I love. So much for wanting what's best for me, Dad. Many updates. I think that my wedding is off. It was supposed to be today, but I did not show up. He's not the man that I thought he was. Not the man that I thought I was marrying. Heck, no one is who I think they are except bloody Alyssa, who managed to get him to look at her. That's right, he cheated. I'm a fool. And I would really like to see my dad right now. I'm just not talking to him at the moment, and I've not responded to him since that day I found out he was giving her husband that position. He just keeps on calling me, but I simply don't want to talk. I feel like going on holiday. Updates. Hey guys, okay, I'm alive. I've just suffered a terrible panic attack. I've been having many of those. I called my father back and he was in town because he needed me to know something. So he wanted my wedding, where he found out that I never showed up and my fiancé was beside him, really worried. My fiancé said that he had traced the origin of those doctored photos, and not only were they fake, but they also came from Stella. I'm not making sense right now, am I? Basically, Stella and Alyssa did not want me to come back to town, so they made a fake photocopy of my fiancé and Alyssa together. Alyssa's husband was in on it. He had just been elected chairperson and he had gotten news that I was going to start working with them. So they sent those photos to me on the morning of my wedding, and I never showed them. My fiancé, being the vigilant man that he is, remembered what I told him about my sister and the position. I have no other enemies but her, and he got his connections to trace the photos, which had not only been sent to me but to all 4 of our friends. It did not take long before they were traced back to Stella. Well, you know what? Stella spilled the beans because she did not want to get sued. As for my dad, he had come to town to reconcile with me. He did not want to miss my wedding and wanted to walk me down the aisle, and he was also here to tell me that Alyssa's husband was serving his last month there. Recent developments came out and revealed the fact that he was having his license revoked. He was linked to many corrupt cases and would give the council a bad name. He wanted to tell that to me in person. The man was not right for the community. He's corrupt and dirty, and just like the wife is, Stella. Dad managed to find me after I called him having a panic attack. He then came to me and told me everything that happened when he got out of the venue. I did not quite believe him till he showed me the proof, and sure enough, when I looked at those pictures, something was really off. Whoever they hired to doctor them was terrible at it. The pictures had so many mistakes on them, and I was so impressed with how easily my dear Kenny managed to find this out. Sometimes I forget how many connections he has. So then I got married to the love of my life, and we lived happily ever after. The end. Ha, just kidding. That was not the end. That is because when I got home from my honeymoon, I found an email saying that I could not have the job that I wanted. Instead, it's going to my stepsister, Stella. The same Stella who worked with Alyssa to history my relationship and have no remorse for it. I was confused. How could it have been that those two did not get thrown out of the council after what they did? Where was my father to stop this? Those are all the questions I asked myself, and this is when I opened the rest of my text and hell descended upon me. Well, one thing I can tell you is that you should not leave your phone behind in the middle of a scandal. Update. Hey everybody, thank you so much for the support, it means a lot. I've been okay just dealing with the mess that my stepsisters caused. I have to say, that nearly got away with it. They just did not count on the fact that my husband is a very protective man and would absolutely destroy anybody who tries to mess with me, and they never learned the first time. So, what happened is that my father met an accident and ended up in a coma. My brother-in-law then used this chance to claim the allegations against him were false. No one had proof of what he had done, and later on, we learned that he bribed his way to the charges being dropped, and my fiancé made sure to take care of that, and he is where he belongs. As soon as we came back and heard about this, we traveled to our hometown. I'd already put in my notice, and so there was nothing for me to work at when I arrived. My husband did his investigation while I questioned my stepmother. When I told her about how her daughter nearly ruined my wedding, she was more than horrified, and she cried and said this was too much. She then decided that if they wanted to take shortcuts in life, she would not aid them in any way. Remember the trust that she controls? She decided that they were not going to get any of the money. She will use the money to invest and also support charities. She said that the way they behaved before they had any money was scary enough to imagine how they would treat people when they did have money. She was also not pleased when they found out that someone in Alyssa's books had tampered with the brakes of my father's car and caused him to be in a coma. That was enough for her to cut them off. The look on her faces when they told them that they would no longer welcome to the house was priceless. They were incredulous and blaming me for everything, and I told them that they should have never messed with good intentions in the first place. Oh, and to make things better, Stella's boyfriend dumped her when he realized that she had no inheritance at all. As for Alyssa, she had no choice but to leave her now disgraced husband who had just been kicked out of the council. All of them were social pariahs, and especially when it came to what they did to Dad. They left town due to all the hate, and I hope that it followed them, and this day they won't have any peace. They're so lucky that my father is such a forgivable man, and he did not even press charges against them for nearly killing him. But you know what the best part is? The next year, there will not be a Thanksgiving. As for me, I got my job offer back, and I'm working under a very experienced colleague of my father, who I'm so inspired by. I'm okay with starting at the bottom and working my way up. There's so much that I can do for the community at this level, and my husband agrees to. He actually decided to take a break from acting and is trying to his hand in directing. That's because we want to settle down and hopefully start a family. Anyways, thank you guys so much for following me with this journey. I hope you have a great day. That's probably the last update.